Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Richard Graves of the Richard Graves Group. Thought I'd chat with you guys today. Um, I was kind of hesitant to do this particular broadcast because we're going to be talking about the tragic incident that caused the death of Daunte Wright. I know people, I had a video yesterday, I talked about how emotional people are, and I know people are real emotional about what has gone on with Mr. Wright and him being killed by the police officer. I think her name was Officer Potter. Now, Officer Potter has since resigned, but has also been charged with second degree manslaughter due to what happened with that tragic traffic stop. So let me give you all some context. I know you guys haven't been in a bubble, so you know what's going on in Minneapolis. We had the death of Philando Castile when he was shot, what I would say murdered by a police officer in a traffic stop. Obviously, we had a situation with George Floyd where he was murdered by Derek Chauvin. And the incident was over. I believe he was being arrested for having a counterfeit $20 bill. But we won't talk about those two cases right now. There's enough being said about the trial of Derek Chauvin and the death of George Floyd. And we've already discussed multiple times over the last couple of years about the tragic death of Philando Castile, who was killed by a Minneapolis police officer. I believe it was a Minneapolis police officer. I'm not sure if they were county or city. But in any case, we're going to talk about Daunte Wright. Again, I was hesitant to discuss this because, I know people are in their emotions, both on the, people who are supporting the police officer and people who are, obviously traumatized by the death of another black man at the hands of law enforcement. So we know what the narrative is right now. And again, like I said before, people are in their emotions about this stuff. Everybody's in their feelings. So, a lot of times people don't want to hear truth when that happens, but I'm going to be as truthful as possible. I'm going to give you guys a thoughtful analysis of what happened. Now, some background. There's a lot of misinformation now saying he got pulled over because of he had something hanging from the rearview mirror. Some people saying he got pulled over for a registration that was expired. So from the New York Times, what we got. Um, Looks like Mr. Wright was pulled over by Officer Potter and a few other officers. Officials have said that he had an expired registration on his car and something hanging from his rearview mirror. When officers found that Mr. Wright had a warrant out for his arrest and attempted to detain him, he twisted away and got back in the car. The warrant was related to a separate case in which Wright was charged with carrying a pistol without a permit and fleeing a peace officer. Okay, so that is the warrant that he had. Some of you may believe the warrant wasn't serious enough for them to arrest him. Here's the deal. If you don't have a warrant, you don't have to worry about getting arrested. Let's be real. I'm not saying that, obviously nothing warranted him to die. Let's be clear. But these are the facts of what happened. This is factually what happened. So let's establish that first. Secondly, I want to say I know there's family or friends of this young man watching, or may not be watching, but may watch or may hear it. And first, my condolences to the family for losing their son, brother, friend, father. Do I believe that anything that happened should have ended up in this man's death? Absolutely not. He should not be dead. All right. And ultimately, the onus of that death is on the person who pulled the trigger. So anything I say here is not to place blame on Mr. Wright. However, it's to contextualize what exactly happened. So that being said, before I talk anymore, let's take a look at the video of what actually happened. going to stop there for a second before we go any further. So obviously, we've had this traffic stop. The traffic stop is for expired registration. I don't know about you guys. I've been pulled over a few times because I always let mine go about 2 or 3 months before I get around to it, especially if I'm working a lot. I've been pulled over by all kinds of police for having expired registration. It's a rather routine traffic stop. It happens. However, everyone knows when the police run your plates, they do determine if you are the owner of the vehicle, if you have any warrants. And if you have any warrants, we all know that you're probably going to jail. All right. It's really that simple. All right. Or, in some cases, they'll give you an I bond depending on what it is, but that's the reality of the situation. So at this point in the video, what we have is the man is about to be handcuffed. Okay, people, I'm going to say this. At this point, this is no longer a discussion. It's no longer they told him he had a warrant. He knows he has the warrant. So they're going to arrest him. This is what it is. This is where we're at. This is not about how you feel. This is not about you don't think it was important enough for them to pull him over in a pandemic. None of that is relevant. In actuality, most police interactions with people are traffic stops, traffic accidents, domestic calls, people getting called to your house for your music being too loud. This is generally what you're going to see. So in this particular case, there is an actual warrant for having a weapon. And again, whether you agree with it or not, that is what he was being arrested for. Okay, let's go on a little further and watch what happens. Okay, let's talk about that for a moment. All right. I know nobody really wants to talk about this because we want to focus on the police killed him. The police are hunting black men. I've heard all the narratives from people from the left. Is there a problem with law enforcement in the African American community? Yes, there is. There has been. We've been talking about it for the last 6 years. So that's without question. We know about Laquan McDonald. We know about George Floyd. We know about Tamir Rice. We know about Freddie Gray. We know about Philando Castile. We know that there is a problem, that law enforcement, unfortunately, has a culture that needs to change in order for us not to continue to have these results. However, I'm not going to have a public policy discussion with you guys today. We're going to talk about this video. Again, this is when it goes south. Now, we can say that they should let him go. They should have followed him later. But what we can all agree on, what we should be able to agree on as reasonable people, was him twisting away from the police and getting in the car and deciding to drive away was not the most intelligent course of action. It is something that I urge no one to do, because this creates a situation where a law enforcement officer can decide that they're going to use force to gain control and compliance of you. All right. Now, in this case, is it warranted to shoot this man? Absolutely not. And we'll go further and see what happens next. Now, before we get to what the chief has to say about that, let's talk about this. Okay. She had a Glock pulled and she shot him. It's really that simple, right? This is what we see. We all saw it. She's hollering about a taser. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I honestly really find it hard to believe that she did not know she did not have her taser in her hand. Now, I know I have a lot of friends who work as the street police. I've worked and done different okay. I've worked and done these different things, and honestly, I apologize, people. I just realized that my technical difficulty didn't show you guys the last part of the video. So let's go back to that. All right. Let me go ahead. My technical advisor told me it didn't show, so let's go ahead and play this part again, unfortunately. Okay. Before we go into what the police chief had to say, let's talk about this. As I was saying, she's hollering, I'm going to tase you, I'm going to tase you, I'm going to tase you. So once again, I'm going to say I find it highly just improbable to believe that this woman thought she had her taser. Now, there's only one possible explanation for her thinking she had her taser. One, and that she's a moron. That's it. Nothing else there. You know, either she's completely stupid or she knew she didn't have her taser. I don't know which one. I'm not a jury. I'm not a judge. All I know is that your taser is normally going to be on your weak side. Your Glock or your service weapon is going to be on your strong side. I don't know. Those of you who work in law enforcement understand that we have a pressure release holster. You know, when I've worked out with the public, I've had that where you have to push a little button on the side to pull your weapon out. I find it hard to believe. I mean, you have to reach over your body to pull your taser out. There's a reason you have them on different sides for this reason, so this mistake doesn't happen. This isn't the first cop that claimed they made this mistake. She's a veteran of the force. I find it just, if she thought she had her taser, she's a complete moron. Simple as that. There's no other. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rude, not trying to insult anybody. It just makes no sense. All right. So, as we see in the video, she shoots him. Man drives off, and here we are, a person dead, dealing with law enforcement. Now, what nobody really wants to say or hear is people want to mitigate everything that Mr. Wright did. They want to say that he shouldn't have been pulled over in the first place. The warrant was something that they should not have been trying to arrest him for. You can believe all that, and I can even say I can agree with all that to a point, but if you all that feel that way can agree that he should not have twisted away from the police and jumped in the car. The fact that he did that does not mean he deserved to die, people. All right. She's wrong. She's wrong. All right. She's been charged with second-degree manslaughter. And that's probably all they're going to be able to get. I know there's a lot of you want her to get murder one, but you have to show some intent. You have to show that she was looking for this guy with the intention of killing him, which I don't think can be proven unless something comes out that I'm unaware of. You know, some news story where they personally knew each other. This was a vendetta. If that comes out, then that's what it is. But outside of that, they've charged her with the most they can charge her with. I hope she's found guilty of that because, let's face it, that's what she did. That being said, and I'm going to keep this one short because there's really not much else to say. I know there's going to be a lot of you that are going to be upset that, you know, that I'm saying that he should not have jumped in the car and drive away. There was no, and I'm going to tell all black men out there, look, that is not going to help your situation. All right. It's a no-win situation there. They tell you under arrest. You know you got this warrant. You know you do. All right. And the warrant, he was fleeing the police officer. So apparently he fled one before. So this is what he does. I'm not saying that he's an evil person. I'm not saying that he deserved to die. I'm just saying this is the facts. The warrant that he already had was for fleeing a police officer and having a pistol. All right. I don't believe, again, that she did not know that she did not have her taser in her hand. I don't think she made that mistake. And if she did, then she's a moron. We're going to continue with what happened after this. I'm sorry. I keep on not adding everything.
Immediately after that, this.
All right.
Watch the video and listen to the officer's commands. It is my belief that the officer had the intention to deploy their taser, but instead shot Mr. Wright with a single bullet. This appears to me, from what I viewed and the officer's reaction in distress immediately after, that this was an accidental discharge.
Okay. We see what the police chief is saying, that he believes it was an accidental discharge. Well, she's arrested now, so we'll see what the jury has to say. Again, it's amazing. I just can't reasonably believe that she thought she had her taser. All right. Maybe I'm just too cynical. Maybe I'm not giving her the benefit of the doubt. But like I said, there's only one scenario upon which I believe she had that taser, and that is she is complete and utter moron. Period. That's the only way. That's the only way that I can see that as being a reasonable possibility, is that she's just dumb. All right. And I don't think that's possible. I think that she had her weapon pulled more than likely when she got out the car. If they knew that he had a case, if they knew that he had a warrant for having a pistol, she probably pulled out hers, assuming he might have one again. And this is how we ended up in this situation. She had her pistol. Now, maybe she panicked and thought she was using her taser. I don't know. I just find that hard to believe. I'm going to try to keep the language clean and not call it for what I think, what I would normally say. I'll just simply say I don't believe that. But I wasn't there. I can have my opinion from a distance, but I will say this, that Mr. Wright should not have, while being cuffed, decided he's going to leave. All right. It don't work that way, people. Please don't do that, because that creates a situation where the police are actually justified to use force to gain control and compliance of you. That shouldn't be lethal force in that situation, which is why she should have had her taser or some pepper spray. Again, it's horrible that this young man is now dead because this person couldn't tell the difference between a taser and a Glock, who has had experience in the police department. And that's it. I apologize for my little technical delays and difficulties with my video. And I'm going to run the video one more time for the people that are just now tuning in. I'm not going to rehash my commentary, but I am going to run the video again from beginning to end without my commentary, so you guys can see what's going on. All right. And to judge for yourself what you think. All right, there we go. That's what happened. We've all seen it. I know you guys have your opinions. I'm sure I'll hear about it. But I'm just going to say, at the end of the day, she was wrong for killing this man, for shooting him. I don't believe that she did not know she did not have her taser. And if she didn't know, she's a moron. She's been arrested. She's charged with second-degree manslaughter. And I hope that she gets the book thrown at her for that, because now this man is dead over some situation that did not have to happen. However, I did say what a lot of people don't want to hear, that Mr. Wright should never have pulled away from the police and jumped in the car to drive away when he knew he was being arrested. He knew what that warrant was for. It wasn't as if he was confused as to the fact of he had a warrant for fleeing police and actually having a pistol. Does that make it right that he got killed? Absolutely not. Did he deserve to get killed? Absolutely not. Is she still wrong? Absolutely. Him making his mistake does not mitigate her mistake. And that's all I have to say about that, people. I'm sure I'll hear from you in the comments. Again, apologize about technical difficulties, and I will see you guys next time. God bless. Thanks for tuning in and hearing what I had to say. Take it easy, be safe. And again, if anybody gets pulled over and you got warrants, don't do that. All right. And I know people want to say you have a right to do that. You have a right to run. Maybe he feared for his life. Look, I hope that young black men aren't listening to these messages, that, oh, you get shot no matter what you do. So what? Look, man, in most circumstances, if you know you're getting arrested and you just get arrested, you usually end up arguing the stuff in court. That's what normally happens. That is the reality of the situation. I want you to live. I don't want you to become a martyr for, police brutality or police misconduct or excessive force. All right. Now, unless you want to be that person to be the martyr, then do that. I don't want you to be that. I tell all young black men, simply, if you know you're being arrested, be arrested. Let your lawyers argue that, and definitely when you're being cuffed ain't the time to decide that you're going to run off, because again, it's racial bias against black men in law enforcement. We know this. All right. As a black man, you're seen as a threat. If he was a white woman, a 5'3" blonde white chick, and she did that, I doubt she would have been shot. But he isn't. He's a black man, and in American society, we're looked at a certain way. And law enforcement comes from American society. Law enforcement does not come from a different planet. If we know systemic and institutional racism is true, which we know, if we know that black men are looked at a certain way in American society, a negative way, in a way to be feared, we know that is true. So knowing all that, deciding to run off, jump in the car, and try to drive away while you're being cuffed is not the wisest course of action. Should you, in a perfect society, be able to do what some 5'3" white chick can do, jump in the car and drive away and not get shot? Yeah, you should. But the reality is you can't, you know? And at the end of the day, in those situations, the blonde white chick should cuff up just like anybody else in a situation like that. So again, take it for what it's worth, people. God bless. Be safe.